I hope you enjoy the day of learning and networking. We truly appreciate your attendance today and your support of our organization and your faith in this ever-growing event. At this time, I'd like to introduce our morning session sponsor, Mr. Brandon Palachicchio, Chief Customer and Business Development Officer of the Greater Dayton RTA. If you could please come forward, he will introduce our morning keynote speaker. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chris and the team. We're proud to once again be the keynote sponsor for today's educational sessions and events here at the summit. I just wanted to take a few minutes and share with the group before introducing Denise on RTA and our economic impact to the region, as some are often unfamiliar with what public transportation can provide a region. Just some things to learn here, that for every dollar that's invested in public transportation within the region, it returns approximately $4 in economic returns. 70% of the government funding that you find that goes to public transportation flows through the public sector, leading to millions of jobs across this country. Studies have shown that property values that are along public transportation sectors and corridors do better than those that are not. In Montgomery County, we're happy to say that over 90% of the citizens in Montgomery County live within a mile of an RTA bus route. So that's extremely important when we talk about bringing businesses here, trying to relocate folks here. The public transportation is a vital piece to that economic development. Over 30,000 customers use RTA a day. 87% of those trips are driven towards businesses and taking people to work, which contribute to the economy in the area. These connections include hundreds of workers to major organizations and companies within the region, such as P&G and Fuyao. There's no doubt that where transportation goes, the community grows, and we're proud to be a part of this community and a supporter of this community and its growth and economic development. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Denise Van Valkenburg. PE Lead AP is the Eco-Inspired Design Sustainability Manager at Herman Miller, Inc. She manages the team that works with new product development by assisting them in the implementation of Herman Miller's Eco-Inspired Design Program. Her experience includes coordinating product certifications, managing life cycle assessment work, material chemistry, researching less toxic alternatives, environmental compliance, management systems, and many other sustainability initiatives. Denise currently chairs the Business and Institutional Furniture and Manufacturers Association's E3 Standards Health and Wellness Work Group, as well as the Chemical Subcommittee. She is a member of the USGBC Harmonization Task Group and is involved with numerous other committees and work groups involving product and corporate sustainability, including LEED, ASTM, BIFMA, HPDC, and NSF. Everyone, will you please welcome Denise Van Valkenburg.
Good morning. Am I on? I think so. All right. Let me get this switched over. So it's great to be back in Dayton. I am a UD grad, graduated in 1990 with a degree in chemical engineering, and I did drive quickly around UD last night and could not believe how different it was. I think it had been over 10 years since I've been back. So very cool to see all the changes that have happened. So all those committees I'm on, that just means that I'm a glutton for punishment. I sit on the phone as we debate standards and how we measure things and how we assess things. So it looks at the whole gamut of sustainability, which is about the triple bottom line. I'm going to be focusing more today on our products and what green manufacturing means related to our products. So this is DJ Dupree. He's actually the founder of our company. Our company started in 1909 as a Michigan Star Furniture Company, and they were making reproduction products out of wood. In 1919, DJ Dupree became the president of that company, And then in 1923, he borrowed money from his father-in-law, who lent him the money to buy the Star Furniture Company. So he renamed the company in honor of his father-in-law, Herman Miller. So Herman Miller never worked for Herman Miller, but he funded it. D.J. Dupree was a very religious man, too, and it was important that, that we look at our community and act respectively. These are our design tenets that we have, and they guide us what we do, things that matter to us as a company. And there's a lot of great things on there. Better World is kind of where we incorporate a lot of the sustainability work. But nowhere on there do you see profit. Nowhere do you see manufacturing or manufacturing excellence. We really look at ourselves as a design company that actually makes furniture. And because of that, we have a number of products that have won design awards. So here's our iconic Aeron chair that in the 1990s was the IDSA Design of the Decade. We just relaunched that chair because we've learned a lot more about how people sit and how people work, and we're able to incorporate some new technologies into that chair. So we have our remastered or new Aeron that's out now. And if you haven't already, get with Kevin. I'm sure he can get your butt in one of those chairs. They are really amazing. They've really come a long way. The Set 2 chair, Design of the Decade for the 2000s. And then here's our Eames molded plywood chair. And that was actually developed in the 1940s and reintroduced. We sold it for a while, we took it off the market, and then we reintroduced it. So we're about design. We're not about furniture. We're about helping people do great things. And we're also about our community where we live and work and being a good steward of the environment. So DJ said in 1953 that we will be good stewards of the environment. And that has really become core to the culture of who Herman Miller is. In 1993, Herman Miller actually was a founding member of the U.S. Green Building Council. In 1994, we built our greenhouse facility in Holland, Michigan. We consulted with the folks with the USGBC on what it meant to build a green building. We consulted with McDonough, Bill McDonough from McDonough Brongart Design Chemistry, who's a sustainability architect, on the building. How do we position it? How do we get more daylight into the factory? How do we make it a more comfortable place for our employees? How is it positioned? What do we do to the area around it? So it's actually considered a pioneer building for USGBC, and some of the learnings from that building helped form the LEED standard. This is a great building. We have all this native prairie around it. It's beautiful. And we were having a hard time getting some of the flowers to grow and maintain. We were also having paper wasps that came on site, and we're a little aggressive towards customers because we did a lot of tours in the building, and employees. Those are about 2,000. And because it was a green building and because environmental is core to who Herman Miller is, some of the employees said, now wait a minute, you're not just going to get insecticides and spray it, are you? This is a green building. That's not good. That's not good for us. That's not good for the environment. So they worked with Michigan State University and brought on honeybees. Honeybees are a natural predator to the wasps. So over time, the honeybees came in, the wasps went away, and we didn't have them around. Then the prairie lands and the flowers started to thrive because the bees were there to help pollinate. So now, when customers come on site, we actually give them a little jar of honey that was made from our bees on our site. So we learned about how to do good buildings, and as we continued to grow, we took those learnings. We had a number of LEED certified buildings. But what did that mean for our product? Remember, this is like the 90s, early 2000s, and environmental product attributes were really about recycled content. What is your recycled content? Trying to drive that up. They weren't looking at other attributes. Sustainable forestry was starting to come along. So we also work with MBDC a little bit more. It's like, this is great. We love what you did with our building. What about our products? So we started looking at the chemistry of our products and trying to assess those and work out those harmful chemicals. So based on this improvement strategy, we launched a chair called Mira 2 in the early 2000s, which, based on the learnings from that chair, helped form the cradle-to-cradle standard when it was launched. So we have this legacy. We have put things in practice. But what do people want now? What are they asking us about? So our customers, and these are just a few, just a couple, that are really pushing us to do better things. So they want to know what is in our product. What are we doing to improve our product? What are we doing for our employees? So it's definitely going beyond. The other thing, we have an aging workforce, which I imagine is going to be the same thing here in Dayton. It seems to be everywhere. So we have to engage with the millennials, too. And they're not just looking for profit. They want to know what they do, the companies they interact with, care, and make a difference. So they continue to push us to improve. So 2 themes that we're seeing right now is transparency is the new green. What is the life cycle assessment of your products? What does it take to make your product? And a life cycle assessment is really just a big energy balance where you're looking at where you're harvesting the wood, where you're mining the ore for the steel, how you're transporting it, how you're processing it every step of the way, how you're making your product, how you're transporting it to the customer, what happens during the use phase of the product, and then how are you disposing it. They want to see that. They want to see the chemicals in the product and make sure there's nothing in them that's going to harm them. The other key thing that we're seeing is collaboration. We can't do it on our own. We have to work together. So based on that and some other things, we launched our Earthright Sustainability Strategy about 4 or 5 years ago. And the 3 key themes were positively transparent, greener together, and living things. The idea of looking at our products in a closed loop. So we're hearing a lot about circular economy now. So what does that mean to our product? How can we do that? It's not easy. We're still digging through it. But based on those principles, we have these 3 themes. Resource smart, which looks at our facilities. How much energy, water, waste do we have? Eco-inspired design. How are we designing our products? Are we designing them in a way that they can be recycled? Are we setting up streams or mechanisms so our customers can manage the product when they're done with a useful life? And community-driven. Like I said, we're not in this alone. We need to work with the communities where we live, with our suppliers, with our employees. So these are our goals for Resource Smart. And these are the 10-year goals, which we're ending our fiscal year 17. These 10-year goals were established for fiscal 23. So we're halfway through. We're doing okay on some of them. We're not doing okay on others. Zero waste is one that we were really rocking it. In 1994, we started a process to drive waste out of the landfill, recycle as much as we could. We had an on-site energy center where we could take a lot of our wood scrap, burn it, generate steam, generate electricity as well to help fuel our plants. That steam was then used to heat our ovens in the manufacturing. That actually has gone offline. We had a little bit of waste that we thought we were recycling. Our vendor told us we were. And we found out, we just changed haulers, that a lot of what we thought was happening was not. So we made this huge improvement, went from here down to here, and we were maintaining here and sloping down, and all of a sudden we had a spike up. That was about 6 months ago. So you're never done. Things happen, markets change, so we constantly have to look at that. So we just launched an intern project around zero landfill. Where we got 9 interns that are going to be going into all of our factories and looking at the waste streams that we have. What's in them? What can we recycle? How can we segregate better? And what other opportunities are there? Net zero energy, I think, is a great one. We've bought RECs. Everyone know what RECs are? Renewable energy credits, right? To offset the energy that we use for manufacturing. We bought enough RECs to offset our electricity globally. Well, that's a good thing, but it's not great. The energy that we're buying is not where our plants are located. So if we really care about our employees and the communities where we work, what can we do locally to try and increase on-site renewables so that we're improving the air quality where we live and work. So we still buy RECs. Like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's not perfect. So that's an area where we are behind goal, but we are serious about. Can we partner with the local municipalities and support on-site renewables or local renewables? Eco-inspired design, so that's about the chemicals of our products. And so as we as a team are looking at those chemistries and encouraging our development teams and our supply management teams to connect with suppliers to get rid of those problematic chemistries, that helps our employees. It gives them a healthier workspace to work in. They're being exposed to less formaldehyde, other toxic chemicals. It also helps our suppliers. We don't make everything we sell. A lot of our core products we make, some things we assemble, some things we purchase complete. So by improving those chemistries, it's helping our supplier and then their supplier as well. We continue to look at recycled or bio-based materials. Recycled materials have their own problems. With recycled materials, it's tough to know what chemicals are in them. Where did that come from? What was the feedstock for that recycled content? Sometimes in steel, if there's nasty stuff, a lot of times it'll burn off in the processing. But for plastics, that's not necessarily the case. And then closed loop systems, and this is where we're trying to look at our products and how can we take them apart, how can we get them back into feedstocks. So definitely working hard on those. And then we do a lot of life cycle assessments. And these are our goals that we have around that. We have this take back goal, and that's about keeping product out of the landfill. That's another one where we're really struggling to find a good solution, an equitable solution. In the early 2000s, Herman Miller and a lot of the competitors actually tried a take-back program where we were brought product back to West Michigan to take it to remanufacture, to refurbish it. It wasn't cost-effective. It was too costly to get the product back. And by the time we were done refurbishing it, you could get a new chair for like 10 more bucks. It was crazy, the limited differential. So we tried it. That didn't work. But we're continuing to look at that and figuring out how we can make that happen. Community-driven. Like I said, we can't do this alone. So we have specific criteria around employee engagement and supply chain collaboration. We'll talk about those a little bit more. So when we rolled out this strategy and what it meant for Herman Miller and our sites, we had to try and simplify the message and figure out what resonates with people. Part of what drove it is the idea that there's going to be over 9 billion people on the planet by 2050. We can't support 9 billion people by 2050. So what does that mean? So how do we simplify it? How do we resonate with those people? How can we work collaboratively with those different functional groups so that we can both win? You can't just push our agenda. We were having a hard time trying to do that. Even when sustainability is very core to who Herman Miller is, we have to make product, we have to get it out on time, it has to perform. We are a public company, so we do have to consider profitability. So how do we fit our sustainability goals, which there's a number of customers that really, really care about, how do we fit that in and drive it through the organization? So we've had to meet with these different stakeholders and collaboratively figure it out. It's like, well, what do you do? This is what I do. This is what our customers are asking us for, and share that information. Make the connection between business and personal lives. A lot of people care what's going on. Water is not a big issue in West Michigan today. We are on the shores of Lake Michigan. But we know in 10 years, Grand Rapids, which is an hour inland, is going to have some water scarcity issues, which we never thought would happen. So a lot of people like to fish in our area. A lot of people like to hunt. So we're working to make some of those connections. And we've launched a couple of different campaigns to try and work with our suppliers and our employees so that we can get improvement both inside and outside Herman Miller. So some of the employee engagement programs that we've put in place, we have this Team 53, where it's 53 from DJ Dupree's quote in 1953. And our engagement goal is 53%, once again referring to the 53, not 100%. We'd like to have 100% engagement. But how do you quantify engagement? And so we're actually restructuring those teams to try and get better engagement and figure out how to quantify it and track it. Our goal this fiscal year is 25%. I'm not sure if we're going to hit it. We'll be close if we don't hit it. We have this big push that we call Sustainable Hero that we've just launched. We have gardens on site for our employees. So we just rent a rototiller, give them a few supplies. They manage it on their own. They decide what they're going to plant, when they're going to plant. As a team, it's a volunteer thing. And then whoever works in the garden can take the vegetables for free. If there's leftover vegetables, they decide how to manage it. At one site, they put it in a basket, and it's for anybody else who wants it. At another site, they donate it to a woman's food shelter. So it's totally up to them what they do with that. Earth Hour is an annual campaign in March that we've tried to kick off and promote with our company, where you turn off your lights for 1 hour. It's like the last Saturday in March. It's always during a NCAA game, right? So we always get the questions like, turn your lights on. Yes, you can leave your TV on. It's okay. But think about the environment. It's to get people to think and talk about it. It's not so much that you actually turned everything off for an hour. But it's understanding that and recognizing that our energy use does have impact, even if we have moved to LED light bulbs and other low energy equipment. We have Adopt a Highway, Sustainable Heroes, a campaign that we've had, trying to get people to share their best sustainability practices and recognizing some of those folks. And we have on-site recycling for employees. So we have recycling for our facilities, but then several years ago, we actually brought on dumpsters for our employees to put their recyclables as well. It always tends to get full right after Christmas and right around graduation party season. So I have to remember to wait a couple weeks when it's around those times when I bring mine in. Not everyone has recycling at home. Some people do. I don't. I could pay extra for it. But because I can bring it to work and I'm cheap, Van Valkenburg, right, Dad? I bring it in. And then we have site green teams that are looking at how we process. Where can we find some energy reduction opportunities, compressed air reductions, things like that. So it's always about what's in it for the employee, right? And if we get our employees engaged, if we get our employees excited, that helps us. It makes it easier for us to have more sustainable manufacturing, a more sustainable product. So we're trying to figure out how to connect with them. We give them tips on how they can save money at home. We've sponsored energy audits at home that people could take advantage of, and trying to give them low interest loans if they need to invest in their home. But this is our scorecard. And so the other thing that we do, so we try and work through the whole factory, down to the employees, even on a personal level to the employees. But this scorecard actually goes to the board of directors on a quarterly basis. And it's 25% of our overall business metrics. So that's how serious we're taking it. So safety is always key, because I'm part of a bigger safety and sustainability group. Safety is always critical. And then how are we doing against those goals? I didn't get a chance to update this for the most recent fiscal year. How are we doing against our eco-inspired design goals, our community-driven goals? We also have inclusiveness and diversity score, where we have different resource teams throughout the companies to work with different groups. So I don't know, there's like a women's team, there's a women's IRT, a Hispanic IRT, an Asian IRT, a Black IRT, LGBTQ IRT. We just launched a veterans IRT. And these teams are trying to figure out how can we work with these different populations, what's important to them, how can Herman Miller support them, engage them, and hopefully keep them as an employee. Because yes, we are going to be losing a lot of employees in the next 2 to 5 years. So it's important that when we attract good talent, that we maintain that good talent. So the Veterans IRT is one of the newer ones, and they're having a lot of conversations and trying to make those veterans feel proud of what they've done for their country and happy that they're at Herman Miller, and trying to support them however we can. So it's really pretty cool. But all of that, like I said, rolls up to the board of directors. So Resource Smart, a little bit more detail on that. Dumpster dives, we're going back to the dumpster dives like we used to do with those interns. always doing the energy and water audits, trying to find good partners to come in for a reasonable price and help us do some of those audits as well. Capital projects is always a huge thing, right? Every year it changes. What did the payback needs to be, right? You know, it was, at one time, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then for a while it's like 1 year. If you don't have a 1-year payback, we're not going to do it. So trying to find those opportunities, kind of group them together as well, and try and take some of those other savings that we have and try and get it to snowball forward. We've had some issues with our energy center. We have to actually rebuild some of it. We hired a consultant to help us with that so that we can start generating our own steam and electricity based on some of the wood waste that we have. Supply chain and community-driven is huge. What we've learned from all the life cycle assessment work that we have done over the years is that if this is Herman Miller's impact, we have a lot of we have a lot of influence on the behavior of Herman Miller, but the relative impact is actually pretty small. If we look at our stakeholders and who we reach, suppliers is much larger. And when you actually do an LCA, we find that about 80% of the impact of the materials that we use to make our products happens before that material hits our dock door. So that means there's like 10 to 15% within the confines of Herman Miller. And then there's a little bit for end of life. Because our products don't use energy, there's not a lot of life cycle impact during the use phase. A car is totally different, right? You're driving a car, you're burning gas, you're using oil, you've got tires. So the life cycle impact of a car is significant during use phase. So to make that car lighter makes sense. If that will improve efficiency. To do different things makes sense, making it more aerodynamic. We can't really look at the use phase of our product. There's very, very minimal impact. People are supposed to clean their products on a regular basis. I don't know that many people do, Herman Miller included, unless you're in the showcase area. So it was very, very little impact. So if we want to make a difference, even if we did get to zero energy and zero waste, we still have 80% of our impact we haven't touched. So that's why the supplier piece is so important. And to drive green manufacturing, sustainable manufacturing to them. Employees has a bigger impact than Herman Miller does as well. So another reason we're trying to work with our employees on education and awareness. So this is kind of how we've looked at things and how we're trying to address it to improve where we're at. So this upstream engagement is working with our supply management folks and get this DFE is designed for the environment. We have a guide for them on how to participate. All of our suppliers are ranked. We have a supplier qualification process. They get a score every year. And part of their score is around Better World, which is around making similar commitments as Herman Miller has around energy, waste, and water, sharing that information with us, and making improvements. And do they share the chemical information with us? And the higher the score they have in this process, the more access they actually have to business. So somebody who has a higher score gets to be at our design yard, gets to meet more with the engineers and the design teams, and bring them ideas and thoughts. If you don't score well, you don't have that access. If you don't score well at all, then a lot of times they'll phase you out. We actually have a banned chemical list. They have them disclose the chemicals to us. We have an approved materials list, trying to get this information out and sharing it so that we're using safe materials. Another thing that we've heard a lot about recently from our customers is the well building. Has anyone heard of well building? You've all heard of LEED, right? Yes, LEED? Okay. So well is looking at the employees, where LEED is looking at the building. Where am I locating the building? How am I powering the building? What materials I'm putting in the building? Well is about the employees. And what are you doing for your employees? And in the well standard, and it's a relatively new standard, and it's still pretty rough. I mean, LEED was kind of rough for a while, then it got better, and now it's rough again for other reasons. So they've actually partnered with the GBCI Green Building, GBCI Green Building. They're the ones, Certification Institute. They're the ones that actually do the LEED scoring, LEED approval. They've partnered with them on the approval piece. Instead of, so they have what they call concepts and features. So what is a credit in LEED is a feature in WELL. And there are things around nutrition, there are things around light, air, materials. But they're also looking at all these features and what part of the body they influence, looking at those business systems. So like Mayo Clinic and Berkeley and Harvard are all working with the Well Building Institute and trying to quantify some of these improvements. So having product that has less toxic chemicals, we know it should be better for you from a health standpoint, but how can we quantify the improvements to somebody? Lighting is huge, right? So the circadian rhythms, and I'm not a lighting person, but I do know the word circadian rhythm. About what type of light you have during the day. So trying to mimic the light in the workspace to mimic natural lighting. So what does that mean to the body? We know that people that work third shift have more health issues than those that don't because their circadian rhythm is getting off. And they're in this artificial lighting all the time. So that's what WELL is really looking at. So a lot of our customers are asking us about that. Our product contributes to some of the features that they have. But we're actually doing a WELL kitchen pilot. We're in a restaurant pilot. So at our design yard, we're redoing the space, and we're trying to get that WELL certified. And that focuses a lot more on nutrition versus some of the other features. And we're going to take those learnings and roll them out at all of our cafes, at all of our sites. So in nutrition, for example, you have to have a salad bar. Your salad bar has to be accessible 360 degrees around. You're limited to what you can offer. You can't offer, foods and beverages that have too much sugar. There's a limit. So we picked the design yard because that's all white collar. And we were concerned if we did this at our other cafes that our manufacturing associates might be upset if we took their 20-ounce Coke or Mountain Dew either out of the cafe or out of the vending machines. We thought that might be a little bit too far, but we're going to take those learnings and try and educate them and encourage that they use or purchase lower sugar products. And we do offer that, and we've started doing the price differential, right? So you're paying more for things that are less healthy we're subsidizing things that are more healthy. So back to the supply chain and the collaboration. There's a guy that works for me, and he actually spends half of his time working directly with our suppliers. And he goes out, he shares best practices with them. He can make some of these connections with them. He's actually brought back ideas for Herman Miller to save energy, to save waste. We've had some improvements based on this partnership as well. Not all of our suppliers are on board with this, but a lot of them are, because if they can save energy and they can have less waste, that saves them money, that saves us money. One of the things that came back was we have wash lines for our metal that we powder coat. And by making some changes to the system, we could drop the temperature in those tanks. And that was $500,000 savings a year by doing that. So it was definitely a worthwhile program to do. And we still do this. We still go out to our suppliers. And it's a collaboration. We're not there just to audit you. We're there to work with you. This is what we've seen over here. Could this work here? Why are you doing this way? And like I said, we brought stuff back. So it really is pretty cool. Trying to drive down the overall impact of our product on the environment. So our suppliers have to report information on their facilities into a program that's called Foresight. We launched that about 2 years ago. Right now, we're wrapping up the just get your data in the system phase. And like I said, we're not going to bang them up if they're not making reductions, but we want to see what trends they have. And if their energy use is going up, why is it going up? Is it something that we're asking you to do? Or is it increased business? Why is it going up? What does it normalize? So we can understand that and help them manage it. We mentioned the on-site gardens. So I want to wrap up with this story. We started working with this group called Gift of Hope Haiti. Actually, one of our employees' parents started doing some mission work in Haiti with Haiti Against Poverty. And they got this program started called Gift of Hope Haiti, where they were trying to take these impoverished women who could not afford to feed their children. Their children were getting sick, malnourished. They would have to drop them off at an orphanage so that they may get healthy and well again. So they tried to work with these impoverished women, help fund them to set up a fruit stand, and then as they were repaid, then they would use that money to help somebody else. They thought, well, what if we make products out of fabric and sell that? So our employee then went with her parents to this and came back and said, well, we have a lot of fabric at our company store. And so she was going to go and buy a lot of fabric to send down there so that they could have materials so they can make these products that then can be sold. We found out about it. One of the guys in my department found out about it and said, well, wait a minute. We have a lot of waste fabric here. In fact, we have this one supplier that has a lot of waste fabric who does a lot of work for us. And fabric is a hard thing to recycle. So we got our supplier involved. We got our company store involved, which is not owned by Herman Miller, but obviously there's a relationship there. And then we got involved, and we collected all this fabric. We bought a shipping container to ship the fabric to Haiti so that they would have a lot of materials. Well, that's great, but it doesn't quite end there. So now they have all these products. We actually buy products from them, and we give them to customers. We also sell these products, and these are a lot of bags. Like there's these really cute wine gift bags that I'll buy. If I'm going to give someone a bottle of wine, I'll just buy a bag to put it in. There's purses, computer cases. So they've really expanded what they can make. And so these are all our high-end designer fabrics that they're using, so it's high-quality material. So we've started selling them. There's a store in downtown Holland near where Herman Miller works that's selling it. Then a local hospital, when we work collaboratively, not just with our suppliers, but with our community. So we were talking with the local hospital trying to pilot some waste product initiatives. They had a bunch of waste furniture they wanted to get rid of, and in conversation they found out about this. They're starting to sell this product in the gift shops. So now we've created this huge market for these products. We supplied some of those materials. We've got this huge market. These women now can keep their children. Not only can they keep their children, they can educate their children. They can afford to send them to school. Talk about a turnaround. So now we've created this bigger market. They've added a second shift. So now we have more women that can educate their children. So. Brian Walker is our current CEO. And like I said, it is the culture of Herman Miller to do what's right for the right reasons. And he talks about benevolent capitalists. So it continues to be core, it continues to be critical to who Herman Miller is and what we do. Do we have time for questions?
How much waste are you generating, like, per year, or like tonnage? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I know some solutions that exist out there that maybe give west.
Right, yeah. I'd have to get the numbers, but yes, let's connect because we're always looking for those opportunities. And like I said, we've got this team of interns that's really looking at waste and what opportunities we have. Yeah, I know, and because of the changes and because the Energy Center got shut down and we had the waste hauler issues, it is West Michigan. Because we look at it globally, and like 80% of our waste now is actually out of West Michigan.
I have a follow-up question.
Yep.
Do you know what your energy usage is?
I can look that up, but I don't know. Yeah. I work with the Resource Smart folks, as our safety team manages a lot of that stuff. We're part of the same team, but I see the scorecards all the time. I just don't remember the numbers. Any other questions? public. It is public, yep.
The composition of the board of directors, they obviously have to get behind this.
Yep.
Publicly traded, there's always the pressure of return on investment.
Yep. It's a balance, yeah. Yeah, but it is core to who Herman Miller is, and I think they recognize that. Listen, I love to take the credit personally, but it's, you know, and it's part of the value too, right? That a lot of people come to Herman Miller because of our sustainability heritage. It's funny because the recruiters that we have to hire interns seem to be somebody different every year. Must be a starter position. And they're always amazed for our sustainability intern, the quality of candidates that we get all over. We've had, you know, people from MIT and Yale work for us. So it matters. It matters to a lot of people.
I had a question. If it's a goal of the board of directors and you've got the interns and your group that are working on this, has that filtered out to the other work groups, more of a continuous improvement? Or
Yeah.
is it concentrated just in the board and your work group?
No. It's been slow, but yes, it has been filtering out. We're getting some of those metrics because we've done as much as we could. We've tried to work to integrate as best as we could, and we're having that issue, right? We've kind of hit a wall. So, and maybe that was like 2 years ago. So we've been working to get some of those specific metrics on the scorecards of specific key individuals within the company, that they're responsible to help increase our supplier engagement. They're responsible to help with employee engagement. They're responsible to help with energy reduction and waste reduction. So still in process, but yes, we are trending that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my question is kind of related to that. I saw you building a scorecard, and it sounded like you're getting a lot of employee engagement on the things you wanted to measure. You referenced LEED, and I'm familiar with Green Roads on the infrastructure side as well. The value of those rating systems is collection of best practices. So in the manufacturing space, are there best practices in those types of systems out there, rating systems out there? Or are you feeling that you're really on kind of the cutting edge of identifying those things and leading that?
There's some. There's the, I think it's EPA has Green Star for certain manufacturer sections. It's kind of, there's not one for our industry group at this time. We're seeing SASB, we're watching SASB and baselining against that. We're in a general category there as well, so we're trying to understand that and what that means. There's not a lot of solid metrics out there. You know, LEED is about the building, right? They don't care what you do inside the building, so that doesn't really apply. So we're always, and as an industry too, our BIFMA, Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association, we have developed our own sustainability standard for product. So, and there are credits in there around your organization that are pretty high level and generic. Do you have a policy on this? Do you have a policy on chemical use? Do you have a policy on energy use? And then there's credits around how you operate your facility. So, and looking at how much energy you use per product, how much waste you have from a facility, how are you managing your facility, the chemicals that are used both inside your facility and then outside the facility. So we do have some things that we can point to, but there's not like a solid scorecard. Yeah.
Seems like the trend with sustainability is ongoing.
Yep.
I'm just curious, I think you guys are in Holland, is that right?
Holland, Zealand is where we're based. We are an international company.
Is the particular community there, are you seeing any traction with them adopting this and then kind of starting to identify this as hey, this could be an economic development tool almost for our community to say, hey, this is something unique about our area, this is what we believe in, this is how we do that. Are you seeing any trickle down to the community?
I think West Michigan generally is sustainability is pretty important for most manufacturers in the area. So there are different organizations where, we'll get together, do some cross collaboration. And then, especially with the energy component and resources, right? I mean, the big thing really that we are working more collaboratively on is not around manufacturing and sustainability. It's around education and future talent. So working with the high schools, and we're working to build some science curriculum to share with some of the high schools. We actually have a program, I forget what it's called, but Herman Miller Academy, where we work with some of the local schools. We bring about 20 at-risk kids a year to come into Herman Miller so many times a week for a few hours. They actually work for Herman Miller in the summer and try and get them to think about opportunities that they may have. These are kids that would not have gone to college, wouldn't even think about going to college, and trying to open up the world to them, let them understand different opportunities. Some of them actually have come and worked for us because maybe they didn't want to go to college or trade school, and have come and worked for us directly as a manufacturing associate. Others we've helped find scholarships and help fund education so that they can go to college. So that's the biggest issue that we've had that we're working most collaboratively around is manufacturing talent, or just talent in general. Yeah.
Projector, do you find that it's going to be a competitive edge globally when you're competing, when people are viewing products that they're going to buy and they're going to buy yours? How do you do business versus something in China that's
Right. So it is, especially for global companies, global customers that we have. We do have manufacturing in China. Generally speaking, what we make in North America, we sell in North America. What we make, we actually have a plant in the UK. We sell in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, generally speaking, right? Because actually there's some stuff we make in North America that we ship to the Middle East because of tariffs. It's cheaper for it to come from us. And then we have a couple plants in Asia that sells to Asia and Australia. So those global companies, like the Googles, like the Citibanks, they do look at what we're doing. For the more regional folks, I can't speak to what's going on in China, but we're trying to do what's right, not what's okay in China. And it's been a struggle. We've made some huge progress. There's still a lot more opportunity out there to improve how they work, what they work, and how they manage some of their waste. But yeah, and it's a business risk issue too, right? If we're, everyone, way back in the day, it was okay to dump paint off your dock, right? I'm done with this gallon or this drum of paint, and they just dump it out or put it in the creek. That's what you did in the 60s, right? And we keep learning more. So things that we knew were okay in the 70s are not okay now, and we've lived through Superfund sites. So one of the questions I've gotten too is, EPA, right? What happens if the EPA goes away or is greatly restricted? We're not going to change what we're doing and why we're doing it. There's too much business risk if we do. We've lived through Superfund. We're still paying, I'm sure, for some of those sites and some of those cleanups, right? We don't want to go back there. We're still going to manage things that are appropriate. And then also customers. Our customers don't want us to go back there either. So whatever happens with the EPA is not going to really change what we do. That was a side question, but. Well, thank you. Good.